Today, I have the great honour of speaking with Tess Mateo. And Tess is advisor to CXCatalysts to the United Nations on Gender and Climate, and she's managing director of CXCatalysts. She's also a member of the US delegation of the W20 to the G20. And today, we will chat about post-COVID-19 opportunities for a sustainable 2050. Hi, Tess. How are you today?
Hi, great. How are you doing? It's really exciting to be part of this reopening, I have to say.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here today, Tess. And first question for you is, where are you located and what has been keeping you going over the last few months?
Well, usually I'm in New York Metro, but I am right now in Michigan, where I grew up. And it's because I'm on the eastbound return to the East Coast on a coast-to-coast 7,900 mile road trip that I've been on for the last 5 weeks. The United States opened up on May 19th. The last state will open up on July 1st. And so I witnessed firsthand where the opportunities are post-COVID. So it's been exciting.
Wow, Tess, I am sure our audience will have lots of questions to you for about that. But Tess, so you are advisor to CXCatalysts. You are also advisor to the United Nations on both gender and climate. And you are also managing director of CXCatalysts. Can you please tell our audience about these roles and what makes you so passionate about what you do?
Well, I guess what I'll do is AQUAL is it's all about finding great people, great ideas who are driving a sustainable 2050. So that's really identifying people on the ground who are really trying to make change happen. Being advisor to the UN is looking at the bigger picture, macro, where we systematically want to find ways to enable those people to get to that sustainable 2050. And CXCatalysts is actually a much more on the ground. We do public-private partnerships specifically to help private sector companies partner with government in doing sustainable projects.
Wow. Okay. And again, I am sure we're going to have a lot of questions, but moving on to your title, Post-COVID-19 Opportunities for a Sustainable 2050. Could you please tell our audience about this?
So this is where I'll wrap up what my 3 roles are. It's because the biggest opportunities actually are the biggest problems of the world. And what we were fortunate is the first time in the history of mankind is in 2015, 193 countries agreed on the 17 biggest problems. Coming from the private sector, that means if you've got big problems, then I have the solution. That's huge economic opportunities. And so the biggest opportunities are really, where's the intersection between the 4th Industrial Revolution technologies and solving these big SDG goals, and then trying to identify specifically those companies on the ground that are going to help us achieve what's on the priority path. So there's a Club of Rome report that came out in November 2018 called Transformation and Feasible. And it was when they identified, it was a meta-analysis done by 33 of the top universities in the world. And they discovered that there's only one path left. And this was as of 2018 to a sustainable 2050. And it's not that 2050 is we're all gonna blow up. It's just, we won't enjoy life as we do today. And that path had 5 strategies. And so my focus point has been and is for the next 12 years on that sustainable path.
Okay, so I have to ask you because I'm sorry, normally in this position, I get to ask questions. So I've got to ask you, one path left. So you've got to tell our audience about that path. And please, audience, please remember to submit your questions. This is an incredible lady that we've got sitting on this Zoom today. So please tell us.
Sure. So this is the Club of Rome, and this is a group of former heads of state, Nobel laureates, philanthropists, and I think the organization's maybe 51, 52 years old. And it was started because it was to save humanity from itself. And so this is a global consortium. And this report identified that to achieve all 17 or fix all the big global problems, to achieve the 17 SDGs by 2030, we would actually need 3 planets. Well, we don't have 3 planets, and therefore all the studies up until 2018 was that no one looked at the trade-offs between the SDGs. And so this path is the 5 priorities is we have to accelerate the transition to renewable energy. 2, we have to double the productivity of sustainable food chains. And so those are the 2 things that are specifically about the private sector and the jobs and the creations, because everything else will be incremental to the sustainable 2050. The 3, 4, and 5 is, 1 is we need to reduce inequalities, and that inequalities is a policy, tax-driven policy, which the governments have to do. And then the other piece is the new development models for the poor countries, not all should agriculture, service, manufacturing, and so forth. We have to select choose which is the right path for certain emerging countries. And the last but not least is actually gender equality underpinned by quality education and healthcare.
Wow. Okay.
So you could Google that though, if you please. It's a Club of Rome report. It is why UN Secretary General convened the climate summit in conjunction with the 2019 General Assembly. It was that important of a report.
Wow. So we've so many questions coming in for you, and this is I suppose I always want to ask this question too. It's about your last point on gender equality, where we might work backwards on some of the questions. So it's a really interesting question. Has the pandemic widened the wealth gap between men and women?
It has, and there's plenty of reports that we've seen about that, which is why, as I've been looking at the G20, which is the group of financial ministers who in 2008 and 9 only met 13, 14 times, but in during COVID has met and convened about 20 plus times. That's how important they're looking at these policies. And so what's happening is that they want to understand that all of the COVID recovery funds are going to be channeled in a way towards a sustainable 2050. And now that's the mechanics and that's the decisions that are being discussed in the policies going up to the G20 meeting, which is in Rome in October or November.
Okay. And along the same lines of kind of this gender inequality or just general inequalities, I mean, we have very few people making decisions in terms of, future and our future. So, what about the role of women or the role of everybody in a kind of a diverse role of people in dealing with the green economy, moving forward, getting that sustainable 2050?
Yeah, so what's a real challenge with the discussions on women is sometimes we're looked simply as a social that they have to help women because we become the victims, and therefore we aren't given the economic opportunities that the men are given. And it's with those economic opportunities in which you have real transformation. So my work has been around creating women-owned businesses, green economy businesses, so that you are addressing the social need for women's economic empowerment, but also addressing the green transformation, because women as caregivers actually have all the data. And so that's what's so interesting, is that with the new technologies, the fourth industrial revolution technologies, of which we are only in the 3rd stage, right? Or 2nd stage, I should say. We haven't even gotten to quantum computing. We've only gotten to 3D, we've got sensors, we've got all of that. But if you look at where the technology can enable it, it's the people with the information who could actually monetize this information to take it forward. And so that's where it gets a little bit trickier, because I'm a private sector player, and I want to bring the majority of GDP, which is coming from the private sector, to solve social problems. So this isn't just the public sector can no longer afford to just fix the gender problem. So this is where the private sector has to come in.
And I think it just personally, I think it's kind of all the problems that you aligned, the 5 kind of aspects of it. But and this is aligned with the next question that we have is opportunities. So you're saying women have the data, there's lots of opportunities, but what are you investing in these days? This is a specific question I have here.
So I do a lot in the renewable space, and also in circular economy, which is about reducing waste in the systems. So if you look at if you look at, there's a fantastic woman, Wandi, I can't pronounce her last name. She is actually uh, the solar pioneer in Thailand and ASEAN. And she has been transforming the renewable space in ASEAN, specifically, but it was with the help of the government policies that enabled her to do that. What we're trying to do is replicate what happened in Thailand for her to thrive and for her to help drive the transition of Thailand into renewables to happen in other countries. So there's a lot of great technologies, and I'm so privileged to know actually there are many women. There's now printable photovoltaic cells. There's an Italian and a Polish woman who discovered that during their doing their PhDs, and they have launched companies. And so I'm investing in those types of projects.
Here's a question for you, Tess. Are making money and saving the planet mutually exclusive?
Absolutely not. And that's where you've seen this great shift in where companies are now, not just companies, but actually Wall Street now understands ESG, and it's become a much more prioritized priority for these companies, that you can make money while also addressing the SDGs. Now, we can't, when people are saying, oh, they're anti-capitalist, anti-making money, it's what creates, it's what's needed to invest in research and development. You need someone to make money in order to invest and have extra money to discover new things. So this is where it's great that all this money is going in impact investing. I highly recommend this book by my good friend, Dr. Mariana Bozizan, called Integral Investing. And it is, what's wonderful about this book, and it's a reference to, gives you the backgrounds of all of these different sectors, but then puts it together on how it's going to be funded and how we can invest in the future. And it's being used by both policymakers and business people as kind of a roadmap to what's the next phase of where this connectivity and collaboration will happen.
Wow, Tess, that's amazing. Yeah, so I wrote down the name of that book. I hope everybody else did. There's so many questions coming in around food and kind of future of food, but I want to bring you to space exploration and COVID, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you've been up to in the last kind of 12 months.
So in 2018, when this Transformation is Feasible report was published, some of us did get a pre-draft and reviewed it. And then there was a meeting that was convened by some folks out on the West Coast of the US. And they said, there's no way the world can collaborate, and there's no way there's enough money for humanity to save itself. Therefore, we need to double down on space exploration, because we need to find a path in case we don't get to that sustainable 2050. And so that's where, as you've seen, there's so much more focus. So the privatization of space exploration in the United States happened in 2019. And some of my investments have been going towards space exploration. And I had once ran into Richard Branson and said, if you had a $25,000 trip to space, I'll be the first one to sign up. And I was so excited when I got an email from Virgin Galactic last month that said, hey, you're in the pipeline now. So that means that I'm within 5 years. So I'm excited for that. But I do think that COVID, these pods, these concentrations, if you thrived in COVID, you will thrive in space exploration, because it will happen in groups of 6 to 8 to 10. People going little by little by little. And it is, I completely believe that our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will have the option. They may choose, just like many of the people I went to high school with have never left the state of Michigan, never been abroad, but there will be people who will have the option to go into space.
Wow, unbelievable. So just to wrap up, I want to ask you about interdisciplinarity, because from everything you've spoken about, and in Discovery, we are so passionate about interdisciplinarity, but maybe tell us how important it's been to you.
Oh, I can't tell you. I mean, I have I have three undergraduate degrees from the University of Michigan, biology, psychology, and economics. And it was because of that very background and all my friends in these completely different sectors that you find these cross collaborative opportunities. And I really do think that whether it's diversity that drives everything forward. And it's diversity of thought, diversity of our backgrounds, but also the diversity of what we each bring to the table and how we are passionate of moving something forward. So to me, interdisciplinary is the future. I mean, the collaboration that happened during COVID is because of this, people who were open to take their thinking into new places. And I'm 100%, and I'm so excited and honored to be part of this discussion. Thank you.
And we are so excited and honored to have you. Wow, that's one of the best answers I've ever had to that question. So thank you so much, Tess. And unfortunately, we are completely out of time. So sincere apologies to all of the audience whose questions I didn't get to. But I wanted to take this opportunity to say a huge, huge thank you to Tess for the most fascinating discussion today. Thank you so much, Tess.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks everyone, and don't forget that you can check out our series at zoomforthought.ie, and you can check out our list of upcoming speakers, and we'll see you all soon on Zoom for Thought. Thank you so much. Thanks a million, Tess. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.